Hello, everyone. Let me provide some support for your paragraphs. I want to provide support for the structure and the thinking that's involved. You may listen to this video on 2 times the speed. You may pause it as you need. So the suggested format, answer the question. Sentence one, answer the question. If you're supposed to address the most important scene, you can say blank is the most important scene in blank because. Or if you're supposed to address the most important word in blank is, or um, blank is the most important word in name a story because. So you offer that. Now, the because clause, you must include your reason in that first sentence because that reason is going to connect with the last two sentences when you close the paragraph. So you have to stay focused on your reason. Why is that the most important word? It has to it's going to show how familiar you are with the purpose of the text. Okay. So this is when you're thinking the big picture of the text. So that reason you offer, why is this the most important scene? Why is this a weakness in humanity or a strength in humanity? You're going to have to explain that in the last two sentences of the paragraph, okay? So that reason must be in that first sentence and it has to connect to the evidence, and then you're going to explain it. All right. So the next sentence, you offer textual evidence. So you can say, for example, in the text, or you can say the text says, or you can say the author's name, Soto says. And I'm doing this video for 3 grade levels. So I may mention an author that doesn't pertain to the story you are reading. So you offer the textual evidence. Now, when you are writing the textual evidence, let me say very quickly, you'll put the sentence. Okay, so let's say you have the sentence, you say, for example, and you offer the evidence. You're quoting, quotation marks, the sentence from the text, close the quote, open the parentheses, you'll put the author's last name. Let's say 8th grade, you all have O. Henry, O. Henry, space, and then you'll give a page number. I'm just going to make this up. 134. Notice the period goes at the end. Okay. The period goes on the outside of that sentence. So you want to be very careful that this is where the sentence goes. I mean, the period goes. Okay. So that is an example of how you would offer the textual evidence. So now that evidence has to pertain to your reason that you are about to explain. But first, you now have to show your ability to read between the lines. The next two sentences, you need to explain what this evidence means. Now, in your head, you can say, this shows, and then you can write what it shows. Or you can say, this means, and you write what it means. But you do not want this to end, the this shows and the this means. You do not want that to show up in your final draft. So I'm just going to show you here. It would just be you would just delete that. Okay. And then you would begin your thinking after. But if you need those training wheels, to once you write the evidence, and if you need to start the sentence by saying this shows, this means, it is fine to use those training wheels. Just make sure you delete the training wheels, okay, in the final draft. But it is okay to say, okay, this shows, and then this means, but delete it. All right. Now you have shown what the evidence is revealing. You have explained what is the author showing us in that evidence. What is the author teaching us with that evidence? You're showing that you're able to read between the lines. And finally, you're now going to close the paragraph by reconnecting with your first sentence. You said this was the most important word because blank. Now prove it. Now, this is where you have to explain how is it that the evidence you use proves it is the most important word. How is it that this evidence you use proves that this is a weakness in humanity? So this requires thinking. It is not easy. If you are wondering, If this is easy, it should be challenging. Okay. I want you to do the best you can, but I'm acknowledging and validating for you that I am asking you to do difficult work. It is challenging. Okay. So that's the structure. The required format. Remember, you should be writing in Times New Roman size 12, line space double. You want to indent the first line of each paragraph. Okay. This is a reminder of the color coding requirements. Here is a model. You can pause the video if you want. This is a model of the first, most important word. I use Humpty Dumpty just so I can do a generic video for all 3 grade levels. Okay. So if you take a look, I have asserted what I think the most important word in Humpty Dumpty is. And Humpty Dumpty is a nursery rhyme that has lines in a poem. So I did not include the author's name in a poem line. You're supposed to cite that in a different way. I didn't want to confuse you. So I just left it generic. So you would insert author, page, but notice the period is on the outside. Then I spend the next 2 sentences explaining, what does this evidence mean? What does this evidence show the reader? And finally, I close the paragraph by connecting how this evidence ties to the word that I chose. Okay, so that's the thinking that is involved. Again, pause the video, take a look and see how the thinking is structured, and you need to match the thinking. Also, I created an example for you for the strength or weakness and humanity paragraph. Notice I open it up. Kindness. I chose strength and humanity, and I chose Cinderella. Again, another generic story, since I'm presenting to 3 grade levels in one video, and I didn't want to pick one story. And then I introduced the story, and I told my reason, because you have to have that because, your reason in your central idea, in that theme, in your thesis sentence, okay, in your claim sentence. Next, notice my introduction of the evidence in this is a paraphrase. You don't see any direct quotes, but I still highlighted it because it is simply a paraphrase. Notice here, I used the direct quote, quotation marks, but there I didn't use direct quotes. I paraphrased the evidence. Paraphrasing the evidence is a more sophisticated skill than using a direct quote. It is more advanced. So I want to see a lot of paraphrasing, but it's still not my thoughts. So because it's not my thoughts, I still had to cite the author. If not, that's me stealing. That's me pretending what the author said is mine. So I didn't directly cite the author, but I paraphrased. Notice I still had to cite. When I say cite, that means you have to include the author's name and the page number. Notice the period is on the outside. And this is supposed to be in blue. Okay, so the next 2 sentences prove I have included an explanation of the evidence. And the final 2 sentences, they're going to connect back. I'm talking about goodness over evil. This is going to connect back to my claim in the central idea that goodness is greater than evil. I hope this model shows you how to structure your thinking, and definitely how to format the paragraph. Let me know if I can be of further assistance.